Welcome to the Possibility Perspective with me, Jess. Let's go on a journey of authentic, bold, and challenging conversations. Let's explore what perspective actually means, what shapes our perspective, and how it impacts everyday aspects of our lives. The authentic part comes in as me just showing up as who I am with an openness to possibilities. The bold is getting to some topics that might ruffle some feathers. And the challenging is for all of us, to challenge ourselves, to be open to new perspectives, be open to looking at things through a different lens. You'll hear stories from me, conversations with peers, and interviews with experts on a variety of topics, all with different perspectives and looking at the possibility within all of them. Now, let's get started. Welcome to episode 4 of the Possibility Perspective. Today's Judgment Day. And I'm not really sure if I can say that these two are peers or experts, because aren't you both anthropologists?
Yes.
So I feel like you have some educated thoughts on the matter, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay, so I'm sitting here with Julia, who I know, Stacie, who I don't. And so this is going to be fun. Okay, so starting with some notes, because we're going to cover judgment. And we're going to cover it in a couple ways. And so something I want us to all keep in mind when we do this, something I heard is 3 reasons why we judge people. 1, jealousy. 2, it's something that we do ourselves and we're mirroring it and we don't like it about ourselves. Or 3, kind of the same idea, except maybe it's something we have healed and gone through, but we haven't forgiven ourselves for it yet, so we still judge other people for it. And I have a 4th to be revealed later. This is my own opinion on the matter. Okay, so I want to start with judgments that you make about other people. And actually judgments that you know you probably shouldn't make, but you do anyway. So, things that I judge that I really shouldn't. I'm starting with this one. People's parenting.
Fair.
That's so bad. Because
Unfair, but fair.
don't have kids.
Yeah.
Have 0 plans of ever having kids.
Yeah.
And I judge hard when it comes to other people's parenting. So, thoughts on that? Do you judge other... Actually, before I even go there, I'm curious. So, I'm going to start with Julia. Do you consider yourself a judgmental person or not?
I would say I think I have moments of judgment, but Stacie and I have been talking about this a lot recently, which is, to me, there's always a ton of nuance to any situation or any scenario. And I'm also an empath, so I'm always trying to understand someone else's perspective on something and where they're coming from. So I would say I certainly have judgments, and I think we all do in the moment where we have that moment of judgment, right? But then I'm always the immediate next thought in my head is but why is that? Or where did this come from? And what might be going on for that person?
So that's really mature and introspective of you.
Thanks.
It's something I'm trying to work on when it comes to judgment. I do a lot of things in my personal development, but judgment is a new thing that I'm really trying to work on. Hence this podcast.
Mm-hmm. But I will say the 3rd one that you mentioned around when you've healed something and you see someone else struggling with that might be, it's definitely the one I will talk about the most. So if I see someone I care about really struggling with something, I'm frustrated that they might not see the pattern or see how they're getting in their own way. That's probably one I get hung up on the most.
Okay. Stacie?
I recognize that I have judgments, but I also don't feel like I'm a very judgmental person, and I feel like I haven't been for most of my life. And I think part of that is, in some ways, a trauma response from being raised around a bunch of judgmental people and not appreciating being on the receiving end of it. So it's kind of like a coping mechanism, I guess, to just kind of be like, well, we don't know the full story of this person's, like, kind of to Julia's point, it's like, we don't know where they're coming from and why they are the way they are. And there's definitely a story. I mean, that's my psychology background as well. Like, there's definitely a story as to why they're behaving the way they are, good or bad. You know what I mean? So I guess I'm just very, and have been very conscious of that for a long time. So to say I'm not a judgmental person, we all have judgments. We all make judgments all day long, every day. But I think I'm just more open to knowing the story behind whatever behavior I'm witnessing.
Stacey's also a trained music therapist.
Yeah.
So so like really professional.
Well, I don't know.
You've got professional thoughts on the matter.
Yes, I have been working in therapy for a long time and educated as such as well. Yes. And
Okay.
I've been in therapy, and I mean, I've been working on this stuff for a long time. So.
Well, interesting something you said, because I am terrified of being judged.
Yeah, aren't we all?
But I also think that that's because I judge so hard. Like, I think that is related to each other a little bit, because, I'm coming out of that a little bit now, but my entire life I've been so insecure. Like, I've always been that person, like, nobody's gonna like me because of whatever. And I think some of that was bullying in school, and I think some of that was whatever it was. And I think my coping mechanism to being bullied was then just getting really judgmental to other people. Because then it was like on them, and I was kind of like putting up a wall for myself, which is interesting. So when I was going through those three things, I was like, oh yeah, I tend to be really judgmental when I'm jealous, because I see people that are confident or in their own, like, doing their thing. Even if you, like, some people might call them a total weirdo, there's some part of me that's like, God, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
And be comfortable doing it.
Well,
I can relate to that.
Yeah, I can too. And one thing that we were talking about earlier is, I just lost my thought. It was around, like, another form of judgment. Oh, I know, which is not holding your own boundaries. And, like, this is an interesting form of judgment that I've experienced in my family, which is we don't know how to hold boundaries. And then what we're doing is, like, putting judgment on others for how they're then engaging with us. And complaining, it shows up as, like, complaining about others, being upset with them and their behavior, but never actually clearly communicating our needs or our boundaries. And that, to me, is another, almost, maybe that would be my fourth version. I don't know if it fits into the three you said at the top.
It is its own.
But it feels like it's like the negative coping mechanism it can be when you're not holding to a boundary.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, people, if you're a sensitive human, boundaries are hard, really hard.
Yes.
And so then, yeah, if you're with the type of people that have expectations, or they're takers, or
Just boundary pushers.
Yeah, that's tough. And then, I actually saw something about this related to food recently, and they were talking about, like, I don't remember, like, food bullies. They were like the type of people that, like, they offer you something and you politely say, like, oh, no, thank you, I ate before I came, or I'm full. They're like, no, eat something. You have to do this right now, right? Like, what are you, on some kind of diet? What are you, you know what I mean? They're just like, like pounding it into you, and it's like, whoa. I was just like, no, thank you. I'm just, like, not hungry.
Right.
But they're like, what's wrong with you? Like, you know what I mean? And that sometimes is, like, an old style of thinking, like, you go to grandma's house and, like, you fill up on food, and if you don't eat something, you're being rude.
Yes.
Which, I mean, who decided that that's rude?
Well, the person who is trying to express their love by feeding you.
Yeah.
And then when you're
taking
not
it personally
engaging.
when you're not.
Yes.
And I think
Receptive
that
to
that's
it.
also a deeper, and the person that was talking about this was going into, like, a deeper seated thing too. Like, they've probably got their own food issues. They're pushing
for
food
sure,
on you.
yes.
Like, so hard. So,
Yeah, there's probably many layers A food bully. I've never heard that term before, but I like it.
I realized I was like, oh yeah, food bullies.
Or people who just like, won't let you just be like, eat what you want to eat, but they have a lot of opinions about what you're choosing to eat in this day and age.
Oh yeah.
Like, if you're choosing to actively not eat a certain food and they're just like, why? And they have to know everything. But there's like a form of judgment in the way that they're
it's all in the tone
with you. Yeah.
It's the tone. It's the like
right.
there's a general like concern and curiosity questioning, and then there's the well, WTF is wrong with you questioning.
I think a lot of people are just like kind of reacting to like what other people's choices and behaviors mean about them. Like, if this person's not going to eat that cookie, what does that mean about me? Because I'm going to eat the cookie. And I didn't think about eating the cookie. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
Does that mean that I shouldn't eat the cookie?
Like,
should I eat the cookie? Am I doing something wrong? I don't know.
I know, like,
here,
just do you. If you want the cookie, eat the freaking cookie.
But I think a lot of it's like, either like, you have your own thoughts, like maybe you feel guilty for eating cookies, but like if somebody eats cookies with you, then you don't have to feel guilty about it because you're not alone.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe you've just been eating cookies and you never thought that you couldn't eat cookies. And someone's showing you that you can not eat the cookie, and you're like, what? Paradigm explosion, you know? I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of possibilities there.
We were talking earlier about being people pleasers.
Yes.
Ooh.
Which, to me, being a people pleaser all comes from avoiding judgment.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Right?
100%.
And it's like, it is that one. So, like, to your point, like, I have developed many ways of coping with judgment, which is like, with the people pleaser, like, to the point where, like, I'll just agree with people because that's easier than dealing with their reaction to me disagreeing.
Right.
Like, it's the easier approach to life in some way, even though it's actually not. Like,
yeah.
Because I'm, like, going against maybe my own values or the way I want to be in the world, but I'm, like, in the moment I'm so absorbed in their judgment that, like, I'm struggling to, like, negotiate being myself in the moment.
Do you think some of that comes from with how harsh people seem to be in a lot of, like, it seems like we're in a lot of world right now where people, if they disagree with each other, they just, like, immediately get harsh and, like, kind of angry about it versus just being like, oh yeah, it's cool. We don't have the same thoughts on this and we're still humans.
So I've been thinking a lot about this recently, and to me, I think we're not connected to, like, our deeper truths about what we really, truly, like, want and need in life. So I think about it, like, one thing I've been thinking a lot about is, like, at the root of things, like, most of us have a core desire of wanting, like, love and connection. But then in the moment in this conversation, we let something else overpower it, and we become this, like, right and wrong. Like, some other aspect or viewpoint on life becomes more dominant, and then we lose, like, that connection to each other. And so I don't know, I feel like this is, like, kind of heady, the way I'm saying it doesn't, I don't know if it makes sense. But I just think that we lose something, and because we don't, like, we're not approaching it from what we truly want. We're approaching it from, like, what's expected, yeah, or, like, this right and wrong approach versus of a topic or idea or concept versus, like, what we're really, like, wanting to be. I don't know.
Right. And we've all lost compassion for the fact that, like, everybody can have different thoughts and views on it and it be okay.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, so everything's so, you know, tense, I'll just say, and obviously very divided in our current societal climate, I'll just say, but, like the thing that I've been kind of tripping out on for, like, the past year or so, maybe even the past 4 or 5 years, is that people have these different opinions, right? And then the one assumes the other's just an idiot. Just doesn't get it. Or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like this assuming the worst of a person, having a harsh judgment, right? But, like, the thing is, there's an entire lifetime of story and experiences that brought this person to their conclusion, right? And like maybe there's some wrong thinking in there based on trauma or just some poor information or whatever, you know what I mean? But like at the end of the day, I think everybody kind of wants the same thing, but they have a different way of getting there and with a different level of comfort for it. So
Yes.
It's like what we're losing in our conversations these days, which I feel like are not really conversations, is exactly to your point, like losing compassion for this person's experience and then also like having the benefit of the doubt that they have a reason for it and it makes sense to them and maybe to others similar to them or whatever. And exactly what you're saying, like it's okay to be having different opinions. Like it doesn't make someone wrong just because they're coming from the world from another angle, I guess.
Well, we were talking about like that sometimes, like when it becomes this right and wrong mentality, that it just then makes people dig their feet in even deeper in whatever their perspective is, because now it's about judgment, not about love, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like we innately become more divisive when we start to define things by right and wrong rather than like from this place of compassion, as you're saying.
Yeah, and I think I'm reading, going through the workbook. What is it called? May Cause Miracles, Gabby Bernstein. It's like a 40-day workbook, and it's just about how to get out of a fear-based mindset and get into love and gratitude. It's really cool.
We need that.
It's a really cool workbook, and it takes effort because I'm not a journaler, and it makes you journal every night, so it's actually a challenge for me personally in that way, just that. But that's kind of it too, is when we get into right and wrong mentality, and then the fear of being on the wrong side, right? And then we lose all the love piece of it.
Yes.
It reminds me of, I did an episode on the psychology perspective, and I centered it around that whole ideal of glass half empty or half full. And I was like, who really decided which one's negative or positive?
Right.
Because it's just a glass of stuff. Like, it doesn't have to be positive or negative either way, but somebody decided that, and then now judgments are being placed on you, how you look at that, which is also fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so I know you have some thoughts, Julia, so you gotta tell me if we're not going to get to these thoughts that you want to say, because I can see your notebook.
No, I think we're getting to it.
Okay.
No, I just have it here with me, but I think we're getting to the core of it.
So then I want to know from you, I shared I judge people's parenting. So I want to know judgments that you make that you think you shouldn't. Let's just be real honest.
Okay. I think the one that I personally am struggling with in particular is like judging people in toxic relationships. That one is because it's really hard for me to witness, and I've experienced it, and so it kind of falls into that third category of like moved through it.
Yep.
And when they continue to justify or like are really struggling to like be aware of it or like move through it in some way, I think that's just one that comes up for me. Like, people, you have choice in life, and then I feel like, and again, there's a whole lot of nuance to what I'm saying, and super dependent on, the scenario and the day and all of those things. But when it really becomes a detriment, and I think in particular to people I care about, I'm very upset that they're not changing the situation.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
You have like zero control over that.
Zero control.
And that's hard too, is when you want to be like the people, it kind of falls into the people pleaser, like the people fixer, the make it all right category.
Yeah.
And you see this going on in front of you. It's like, can't you just not be this way?
Yeah. And then
I
would say the other place that I judge a lot is I have really high expectations of what I produce, like at work, right? And I have a lot of judgment about people who can't produce.
Ooh. I probably shouldn't agree with that on this because if people at work listen to it, but I'm going to agree 100% on that one. I work so fast. I mean, like, I can get like a gazillion things done and look up and it's 10 a.m. and I'm like...
Yeah, I just do that. I have high expectations and I do judge when people don't meet my expectations. Of course, I'm working on that and trying to let it go. But yeah, that's another place that I find my judgment shows up hard.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Stacie?
I have two that are coming to the forefront. One is I judge people who are not big picture thinkers. Because I don't understand how they don't see the big picture. And it makes me really upset.
I need an example.
Well, I mean, Julia...
Give me the big picture.
Well, I mean, Julia and I were talking about this the other day. We're just the type of people that, like... Okay, so I don't really know how to come at this, but...
Really quick before you get going. Stacey's been visiting for 48 hours, and the only thing we've done is talked. So just to be...
Like, we have done no activity.
No activities. Nothing. We've only just sat and talked for 48 hours straight, so just to give you a sense of...
We didn't watch a movie.
We did watch a movie.
Okay.
So, we covered the gamut. Please continue.
Well, I guess I just mean, like... I don't really know how to approach this in a very specific way, so I apologize for my ENF penis in this explanation, but, like, I'll have an idea, and I'll be like, that's an idea, and then I'm like, wow, let's explore this idea, and then, like, I get so far ahead of myself, like, I can see, like, the end result, if you will, and, like, all the moving parts of it, I guess. And, like, I'll be trying to explain this idea and the end result to people, and they'll be like, I don't get it. I don't know how to explain it. So is it... You can help me kind of... Julia's really good at, like...
What's your astrological sign?
I'm Leo. Well, it depends. Are we talking tropical or are we talking sidereal?
I forgot you're the person that knows about this. I don't know anything about it, so I asked the wrong person. Well, because... So I
Tropical's the popular, so I'm a Leo.
Okay.
And sidereal, I'm a Cancer.
So I have, because what you're describing to me, tell me if this is correct. I have a Sagittarius boss who is like visionary, big picture, like all the ideas.
Yeah.
Best friend for 42 years is a Virgo. And so it's like, I've got this idea, and the Virgo's like, well, why?
Sure.
Like, is it that kind of dynamic or not really?
It's kind of, like, I would say, yeah, like...
Or they just don't get it. Like, they don't get the picture.
Stacey spends a lot of time in a thought or idea, and she can see all the ways that things are, like, interconnected and how they create certain outcomes. So she just really, like, sees the pattern, sees the connection, sees where things can go. And then as soon as, like...
It's hard for me to verbalize that, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like... I feel like what you're saying is... But do you really judge people for that, or do you feel judged?
Ooh.
I'm probably... Yeah. Well, right, because we were talking about how I'm misunderstood a lot because I can't convey these big ideas that I have.
Exactly, so...
And explain... If I write it down, like, if I want to write a friggin' thesis on, like... and spend all those years, whatever that it would take to do it, like, I could present it to you. But, like, to just explain it... And I don't know, I feel like I'm just, like... I'm not... I mean... I'm an intelligent person, but it's not like I think I'm the smartest person or anything by any means. I just... Maybe I need to come up with a different example.
Well, okay, we can get off it, but I feel like this is probably, like, what's happening, is you're, like, trying to explain something and I'm not following.
Well,
this
kind of.
Literally,
I'm not judging, but you're right, though. I'm not judging you for it. I am judging myself.
I was like, I think you actually judge yourself. Okay, what's an example of you judging others?
Let's go to a different one. The other one. So I feel like there's more. There's like maybe I can come at it from another.
We're gonna have to unpack more that,
sense,
like, but it's gonna take us a while.
Yeah, let's maybe come back to it. If it comes back through conversation, maybe I'll have a better handle on how to explain it. But okay, so I will say my other one is I judge people who are not willing to work on their garbage.
Mm-hmm. And what category do you think that falls into?
What were the...
Well, probably not jealousy. You're probably not jealous of those people.
I kind of am.
I think it's number 3 where
I kind of
Is it
am.
something you've healed about yourself and haven't forgiven yourself for?
No, I forgive myself a lot. I've been working really hard on that. But no, it's just... I think it kind of goes back into the big picture thing. Where, like, I feel like the world is in the state that it is because people aren't working on their garbage.
Ooh, like the whole metaphor of, like, sweep your own front porch and the whole world would be cleaner?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that might fall into my number 4 category of why we judge. And I literally think I have some judgments and I don't feel bad about them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they fit into any 3 of the categories. I just think they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, one of them for me is smoking cigarettes. I like literally, in today's day and age, if you smoke cigarettes, I judge you so hard.
Yeah.
And I don't feel bad for it.
Wow. And then I'm like, well, what's going on underneath that? Like, my immediate reaction was that.
I know.
While they're coping with something.
Yeah, what's happening in their lives?
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'm actually genuinely curious about that too. Like, why do you smoke? Like, what got you started? Obviously, you're probably addicted now, but like, with all of the information we have available to us, you think that's really a great choice? But I don't think what addictions are,
though. Right?
But,
exactly.
I mean, like,
I don't think they do think that. I think they just.
So it's hard because then I also have a lot of empathy for people with addictions. So I'm not sure why smoking sticks out to me. But my mom smoked my whole life, so maybe that's part of it, and I hated it. So.
That makes sense.
There's a reason.
But yeah, right. But that's like one of those judgments. I'm like, I don't really care to work on it. I'm just going to keep it.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's okay.
Yeah. You're aware of it.
Exactly.
And you're
half the
intentionally
battle,
choosing it. Like, that's okay, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you're going around punching smokers in the face or something. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
you're just having a judgment about that.
So, one more. Because I realized this lately, because I was looking at, like, what's my next car going to be? And I was thinking, like, I really want an orange car. And Audi makes an orange SUV. And I was like, I could never drive an Audi. I judge people who drive Audis.
Oh my gosh, I judge people who drive Carreras.
I don't know what that is.
It's only because a Carrera cut me off one time, and now I'm pissed at every Carrera.
No, I swear, if you're gonna have somebody that's like tailgating you or just driving like a total ding, like it's somebody driving an Audi.
I've had a running joke about Carreras.
What's a Carrera?
Yeah. Who
makes the Carrera?
Is it like a sports car?
But they always cut you off. Look, I'm making a total judgment stereotype.
Very much. There's like cars
have who makes it. Don't know anything about it. It just happened once, and that experience informed my entire judgment.
Isn't that crazy how we can do that so easily, though? I mean, that's also like, okay.
It felt harmless, so that's why I like accepted it. You know, like it's just a car.
I have another, and it might open up something because this is, and it actually is part of the reason I started this entire podcast. I judge people who judge people solely based on their religious or political views without ever knowing anything about the person. If you judge somebody based on their religious or political views without knowing who they are, I judge you right back so hard.
I will say in the past I did not judge this, but I certainly do now.
Yeah, it's something that like...
And I'm okay with being judgmental about it.
Yeah, I mean...
I feel righteous if I'm being perfectly honest.
I think I do too! I think I just am like, seriously? Like, we've lost all compassion for humans.
Yes.
And we are putting a label on them based on something.
Yeah.
And I just think, let's try to be a little more open-minded.
Yeah. Nuance. Julia and I keep talking about nuance. We've been talking about it all weekend.
This one is hard. So I would say that it's a really interesting time because life is really complex. So I think about right now, you know, like I have a friend group that does judge people pretty hard for not, for maybe political views or like, not getting vaccinated in this moment in time. And then I see the alternative where I work in a hospital and it's completely overrun with COVID patients. It's the fullest the hospitals have ever been. And it's terrifying. And we're literally burning out humans who are trying to care for others. And so I think it's like, and I agree, like, I don't think that you should judge anyone. I think there's nuance to a person, but I also think there's nuance to what we are going through together as humans. And I think it takes both things to understand. Like, we're not, as much as we want to be individuals living our life and getting to decide everything, we're actually like social beings and we don't exist without each other. So I think it's like, for me, it's about taking in context a person and who they are and the context of a society and who we are. And that's really freaking hard. But I think, like, that's what I think we have to do to move through some of this and like come to a place from love about what we're trying to create. Like, what are we trying to create together? I'm not sure, because everyone is just defending their position. And I would really like to know, like, what is the United States, because that's where we live, trying to create? I have no idea.
I don't either.
It's a really good question.
I don't know if anyone could answer that question. Yeah. I'm with you.
But wouldn't that be an interesting conversation? And don't you think then all of these perspectives could come in and have room and space in a way that they don't have now?
Yeah. That's what we need.
Yeah. And I think it all stems from people wanting to be right or wrong. Mm-hmm. And I had to let go of that for my own personal beliefs. At one point, I was like, what am I trying to do? Am I trying to be right about something? Mm-hmm. Because then even if I am, so?
Yeah, right.
What that helps my ego, I suppose, but at the end of the day...
Well, but that's where I was saying, like, that's where I feel like we have to be in touch with what we truly want and need in life, because then you can say, like, well, is the number one thing I want and need in life is for my ego to be right, or is, like, it's something else?
Right.
And then it becomes a lot easier to pick apart where you're actually, like, serving how you want to be in the world and where you're not.
Right.
I think.
I agree.
That goes back to everybody working on their garbage.
Yeah. Well, I literally wrote here, like, you have to let go of judging yourself before you could ever let go of judging others.
Well, 100%.
Like, it has to be your own inner work first.
Right. So, what do you judge yourself on?
What don't I judge myself on? I judge myself on being late.
Yeah.
Okay, on that, just so everyone else can know, the funniness of their arrival today is I'm chronically on time for everything, and one thing on my list was I judge people who are late to stuff, always. But it's funny because I expect Julia to be late. I mean, I really do at this point. But you know what? One of my best friends, Mel, like the whole time I've ever known her, she was late. So to my own wedding, I told her it started at 3:30, and it wasn't like until 5.
So she'd be on time.
But the irony of it was she showed up at 3:30, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Here you are.
I have a little story. My first wedding that I stood up in was when I was 18 years old, and it was my best friend's wedding. And I was late.
So she should have done what Jess did and told you it was like an hour and a half.
She should have, but she's like me and also late to everything, so she would not have had like that kind of thinking of like, I should tell Stacie to be there earlier. Because our intention is always to be there on time.
Things never happens.
Happen. Oh my god. You know, I've been, well, like... Oh my gosh. Wait, okay, so you judge others. What do you judge yourself on?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, if I was going to get really serious, I have intense body dysmorphia. So that's one thing. I also judge myself. This is one of the jealousy things, is like people that seem to be having fun and are outgoing. So it's really interesting. I test like 60-40 on the extrovert scale, I guess, ish, you know, but I would say I a lot of times lean more introverted because I get a lot of social anxiety. But there's like this burning desire inside me to be the person that's like out dancing in the middle of the group of people. But for some reason, something stops me from doing it. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm not sure though if that judgment is judgment of myself for doing it or judgment of for not doing it. And I think it's the latter. I think I judge myself for not doing some of the things that I want to do. I don't know if that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I judge myself all the time for not doing things that I want to do.
Yeah.
All the time.
I mean, I would say, like, the biggest one for me is, like, I definitely live from, like, a sense, like, day to day. So, like, we were talking about this, that we, like, in the world, right? I work in a hospital where things are very, like, you know, there's a lot of protocols. There's a lot of, like, cut and dry. People just, like, they work these hours. They show up and there's so much structure. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And then I don't operate really well in structure. I operate in energy. So, like, when I'm feeling good is when I can work. You know, like, I have to be in a certain headspace in a certain part of my day. And so I judge myself for, like, mostly for, like, failing to operate in the world the way that's expected of me. Like, that is really hard. And I think over the years tried really hard to operate in the way that was expected of me and then personally been miserable. So I judge myself for that. Like, why can't I just be, like, a functioning human being who, like, does their hair every day? Like, it's just, like, that's just something that, like, I genuinely, personally don't care about and don't have this, like, need to do. But then I'm like, everyone's so put together, and here I am just, like, this is all I can muster today. Here I am, you know? So I judge myself for that. And then I would say, I don't know, I think that's the big one, I guess, is that. And then I just judge myself for not actually taking care of myself. So not following through on, like, eating a certain way or getting the exercise in when I needed it, which is, like, totally hinders my ability to take care of myself when I go to that place of judgment. So I try really hard to work on that, but it's definitely one I'm working on.
Same thing. In the past, I judged myself for not fitting into these societal constructs, but since I went to grad school and then came out of that as an entrepreneur, not a very terribly disciplined and successful one, but I did okay. That was my lesson in, like, set it up how it works for me, and everything else be damned, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think I'm past that now. Like, I'm okay with the fact that I don't operate like everybody else does, but, you know, I set up my business so that I could mask that a bunch. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. And yeah, and then I ended up having a great time.
Yeah.
And being appreciated and, you know, like, all the things that you want to feel. Mm-hmm. But, like, I had to set that up for myself. I had to, you know, not judge myself for not fitting in and, like, just work towards my strengths and, you know, again, set up my own structure that worked to where I could kind of dabble in those areas without having the full-on expectations. Does that make sense?
I wish people listening to this could see your hand motions, the way you're describing it, because it does it beautifully.
I've been told I'm animated. Yeah, so I've done, and I also judge myself for how I'm treating myself as well. Before I used to judge myself for being who I was, and now it's flipped since I've grown and healed, and now I'm judging myself for not being nice enough to myself.
Oh yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like and I say that loosely because I also have, like, worked on judgment a lot. So, like, I know that judgments can't be avoided, so I'm kind of at peace with judgment. Mm-hmm. So judgment is just information to me.
Oh, you sound like Teal Swan.
I love Teal Swan. But yeah, it's just information. It's like, oh, I'm being judgmental. Okay. What's that about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all about just asking myself questions and then, like, working on coming back to my friendship with myself.
I love that.
wooey or whatever that sounds, but
I think that's very important.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only way I've been able to cope with life successfully.
That's what I'm working on.
Yeah.
And actually, I've been working on it a lot, and the self-judgment one is definitely hard.
Well, I think to your point, I think we judge ourselves the most, and that is what makes us judge others. If we weren't judging ourselves so much, we wouldn't have so much judgment for others.
Yeah, exactly.
Or not living our truths, right?
Right. But that kind of goes into it, too.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. It's all connected. Big picture.
So, I don't know if either of you have an answer to this. This is us wrapping up, but I've started a theme at the end of every podcast. I recommend a song that just kind of makes me think of the topic in a positive way. And so I'm going to share mine, and it's Biscuits by Casey Musgraves. Well, I'll play it for you, because that's actually the special treat at the end of this podcast, now that I have an audience. I'm going to play the song, but can you think of any songs, like or like feel-good songs that you would recommend to people?
About judgment?
I guess it doesn't have to be about judgment, but it just like a feel-good song, like if you're in like a bad space with yourself, or like what's your go-to to like pick me up, feel better song?
Well, I'm sorry, but as a music therapist, that's a really complicated question for me.
Oh, right, okay. Just kidding, I didn't ask you that question.
Oh, man.
Oh, okay.
It kind of depends on the...
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what's on my... I don't know. It's just... For me, it's just like whatever song is like soothing to me in the moment. Are you going to play for us?
Yeah, I told you. I'm like legit.
I thought you were going to like hit play. I didn't realize you were
I'm not gonna legit play it.
Oh,
Yay,
But
okay.
I have to watch the lyrics and the chords because I don't have it memorized.
Okay.
So
We're very much looking forward to
Yeah.
it.
Please don't judge me for my music ability.
I would never.
We're impressed already.
Oh God. Okay, here it goes. I'm nervous.
I am too. I'm nervous sometimes.
I'm sweating. That make you feel better.
Taking down your neighbor won't take you any higher. I burn my own damn finger poking someone else's fire. I never gotten taller making someone else feel small. If you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. So hoe your own row and raise your own babies. Smoke your own smoke and grow your own daisies. Mend your own fences and own your own crazy. Mind your own biscuits and life will be gravy. Mind your own biscuits and life will be gravy. Nobody's perfect, we've all lost and we've all lied. Most of us have cheated, the rest of us have tried. The holiest of holy even slip from time to time. We all got dirty laundry hanging on the line. So hoe your own row and raise your own babies. Smoke your own smoke and grow your own daisies. Mend your own fences and own your own crazy. Mind your own biscuits and life will be gravy. Mind your own biscuits and life will be gravy. Pour in... Wait, hold on. Pour in... Oh no, it's scrolling too far. This is my favorite part and I'm blowing it. Hold on.
You're doing great. Just keep going.
Pour in salt in my sugar won't make yours any sweeter. Pissing in my yard ain't gonna make yours any greener. I wouldn't know about the rocks in your shoes. I just do me and honey, you can just do you. So hoe your own row and raise your own babies. Smoke your own smoke and grow your own daisies. Mend your own fences and own your own crazy. Mind your own biscuits and life will be gravy. Mind your own biscuits and life will be gravy. That's my Judgment
I
song.
like that song. I never heard
It's
it
so
before.
funny because that song reminds me of you. Like, how I see you.
Thank you. That's it. So this podcast is probably becoming like a Casey Musgraves tribute because almost every song that I've recommended so far has been one of hers. So I'm making a promise to my 3 listeners, hi Mom, that I'll come up with something else to recommend in the future. Thank you both for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
And if anybody's curious about Julia or Stacie, then I'll get some information from them and you can follow them on Instagram or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye. Thanks for listening to The Possibility Perspective on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information about the show, you can subscribe to the podcast. Visit thepossibilityperspective.com.